I'm Sarah Sanderlin. I'm a junior here at Tech, and I grew up in Ruston my whole life, and I just got to share my story in Engage group last week, and Katie asked me if I could do it for the well too, so here we go. I was born an only child to older parents in a godly Christian home. Both of my parents are really, really awesome, and I had a really stable childhood. Like, I've lived in the same house my whole life. My parents raised me up according to Christian values, and there's really nothing bad that happened in my childhood or anything. I was homeschooled my whole life, and I was a couple of years ahead in school because of that. And so when I started high school around the age of 12, like, I felt like I was supposed to be dealing with issues, like deep intellectual issues, because I was ahead of my grade. People expected me to be smart and everything, and I started having doubts about Christianity and kind of just turned all of my attention to that. And I first professed Christ when I was about 6 years old, and I believed that I was saved at that point, but I really didn't know God. And so for my whole high school years, from the time I was 12 to 16, I just read like all of these apologetics books and books about why Christianity must be true, and I immersed myself in that, and I thought it was really cool. And I got to the point eventually near the end of high school where I was like, yes, there doesn't seem to be any other logical option. God, as Christianity shows him, has to exist. But at that point, I still didn't really know God. Like, I understood, like, I had read books and books worth of material about God, but I still had sin in my life, and I knew that that was bad, and I knew I had to be forgiven of it. And I confessed that sin to God, but there was nothing really personal there. I didn't understand grace, and I always felt unworthy. Like every time I screwed up, I was just proving to God that I was a disappointment and that I was never going to be good enough. And I was grateful for what Christ had done to me, but that just kind of translated into guilt in my life instead of a relationship. And part of the way through my freshman year of college, I feel dumb just saying this because it wasn't like anything terrible happened in my life or anything, but like there's just some drama with some friends, and my grandfather was in the hospital. It didn't look like he was going to make it. I spent all Christmas Day like alone in a hospital room sitting with my granddad, and I just was feeling so much depression and so much worthlessness because I felt like I was a disappointment to God. I was a disappointment to my family. Even though I was doing everything on the outside right, I knew that my heart wasn't right, and I didn't know what else I could do because I already felt like I was a Christian, but I just didn't know, I hadn't experienced grace. And so I came to the point where I just went to one of my best friends and just told her everything that I had ever dealt with. Like, all through high school, I had, and even before that, I had dealt with lust, and I had dealt with some temptation to homosexuality, and I felt like I couldn't talk about that to anybody. Like, they would reject me if they knew. And so for the first time ever, I told somebody that and got it out in the open. And that was really, really hard, and I cried, and I don't like to cry. But afterwards, my friend just hugged me and said, "I love you," and prayed with me, and was like, "I'm always going to be here no matter what." And that was just such a picture to me of what the grace of Christ is for us. Like, even when we screw up, and even when we do stuff that we feel like is unspeakable, God is still there for us. If he's loved us once, he's always going to love us because he can't change. And so even though I had known that God and Christianity were true before that, that was the point at which I came to understand grace in my life. And my life is not perfect now. I'm still having to make hard decisions and having to make decisions that I've never had to make before, and I feel confused a lot of the time still, and I screw up a lot of the time still, but the difference now is that I know that God is still going to love me, and that it doesn't matter what I do because his grace is sufficient for me, and his power is made perfect in my weakness. So even though I know I'm not going to live up to his standard all the time, I know that the power of Christ is in me, and that's never going